Hello, folks. Good evening. How are you? Hope you've had a great evening so far and hope you've had a fantastic week as well. To those celebrating the Muslim festival, Eid al-Adha, we'll say Barakat al-Salah to you all. To those looking forward to a long weekend of fun, festivities, and plenty to play around and eat, good luck. Don't eat too much. Just don't get to run yourself. But anyways, it's always a beautiful day on Just Banter. You're on to another edition, and this edition is laughter, language, and culture. So why are we saying it's laughter, language, and culture? Well, a lot has been happening, trending on social media in recent times, and we've been hearing all sorts of slangs, things like "off your mic," "I owe pass you," "you're a small boy," a lot of stuff. So many of these things, some people who are government officials, representatives of the people. Now you get to wonder and ask yourself, is that part of the culture now? Age is just a number, yeah. But for our culture, it is said that you respect your elders, you talk to them with respect, you use a certain prefix when you're addressing them, things like that. We understand that. But when it comes to matters of governance, you're accountable to everybody. It doesn't mean people should be rude to you, but it also means you shouldn't be rude to people. It also means that you should respect people and treat them with the best the best level of dignity that you can. Now, one of the things that, really, really trended this week was the issue of a young boy, a kid, who was having an issue with his mom and all whatnot. And it trended so much that even the governor of Lagos State had to comment. Now, the key, or should I say the operative word here or phrase is calm down. Let's watch this video very briefly for you to see what we're talking about.
I said, Mommy, calm down.
I should calm down.
Yes.
I should calm down.
Yes, don't be angry.
Ó ṣe jẹ́ pé nǹkan tó bá gbélé ẹ lọ́wọ́ ló máa lọ ń kó. Give me your hand.
No, I'm just telling you to be calming down. So
Don't calm me down. Don't calm me down.
I want you to be calm down. So if that rest small, you must rest, Mommy. You must rest a little.
I should rest before I beat you.
No. Just rest like this. Like this.
Bọ́sílẹ̀, ìwọ tí mo fẹ́ náà ó tún jókòó.
No, don't sit down. Don't tell you don't do.
Give me your hand.
I'm sorry, ma.
Give me your hand.
Mama ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́. I said Mama ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́.
Ó máa ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀.
No.
Ṣé bó ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ lánàá?
No.
When I say don't do it, you still do.
Pretty hilarious, you might say. Initially, when I first saw, the first part of that video, I was getting a bit upset, looking at it and wondering why a parent would be that harsh on a child. The child has crying that much already. Why would you want to beat the child? But towards the end of it, I saw the humor in it. And to, heighten the humor as well, and I saw the tweets by Lagos State Governor, where the Lagos State Governor was talking about calming down, telling Lagosians to calm down, and that he and the boy now had the exclusive views, more or less, of the operative term calm down. Pretty hilarious, you might say. But I'll also tell you something that I saw out of it. So this little boy was trying to tell his mother, apparently, or whoever, he was relating with. He was trying to tell the person in Yoruba that I won't do that again. But what he was saying in Yoruba actually was, I will do that again. He said, "Ma ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́." That's what he means. And he goes, with all the laughter around it, he goes, to highlight what's missing when it comes to language and culture, how we pass it on to our children, how, especially children in diaspora, a lot of them can't speak the traditional languages or local languages anymore. simply because their parents, want the best out, for them. Yes, by telling them to understand the local language of where they're living at present and try to be the best that they can in those environments. But we keep forgetting that our cultures are rich. Our cultures are sophisticated. Our cultures have affected other cultures around the world in different ways. If you go to Brazil, the carnival in Brazil has been affected immensely by the Western African culture. And that's why you see, the type of flair that they have in the carnival, the kind of drums that they beat. A lot of people talk about samba football. They don't even realize that samba comes from the drums, the local talking drums that come from out of West Africa. They also don't realize that when you look at a country like Cuba, there's so much going on in Cuba when it comes to like the Yoruba language, for instance. When you go to Venezuela, you see a lot of people worshiping Ifa in Venezuela. They're trying to learn how to speak Yoruba. There was also one woman I also saw again on Facebook. I can't remember what her name is. She's probably maybe from Switzerland or Sweden or something like that. And her husband is Igbo. And she has been trying to learn the Igbo language. She's been trying to learn the cuisine. She's trying to learn the culture. And she's very, very active at it. That goes to tell you how rich and how interesting our culture is. Now, somebody just sent me a message now asking me, how did the Yoruba culture or how the Western African culture affect the Brazilian Carnival? Okay. So the Brazilian Carnival initially started out as a pre-Lent festival coming out of Europe. But over time, because of the amount of slaves, that were deposited in those countries that had to work, for their masters and all whatnot, they also had to participate, in those festivals. And over time, they started to bring their culture to mix into that carnival, because that's actually the pronunciation, carnival. And then it became one word, carnival. It evolved. Now, that's where all the flair came from. Now, speaking of language, quite a few people have come up with innovations around trying to, get to teach the children their local languages. Some have taken it commercial. Some, they get it out from, their religious congregations, either from the church or the mosque, in whatever country that they are in. Somebody that I happen to know has come up with something very interesting. It's actually an online local language learning platform. What is it about? It's about your children being able to access local languages wherever they are online. It's a marketplace of sorts. He's going to explain a lot to us about it, but we're generally going to be talking about language and culture. And he can tell us, how that is going to, how his platform, is possibly going to affect what it is that we're trying to do. Now, I'm going to be introducing into the studio a good friend of mine, Ben Nwokedi. And Ben is the founder of the Roots Academy, the online local languages learning platform. Hello, Ben.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Ben?
Nice to have you. Not too bad. Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
Ben, did you see that video I played just a few minutes ago?
Yes, I did. Actually, I did.
What did you think about that video?
It was very, very interesting. The kid was crying and asking the mom for forgiveness that he won't do it again. And along the line, there was an issue with the language. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. It's a bit low, but you go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, so along the line, there was an issue with the language, which he didn't know. He didn't know he made an error. And then clearly, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ben. Go ahead.
Okay, basically, so that's what happened. He was crying for forgiveness that he won't do it again. And that was what it was. So I think the mom forgave him and made sure that he won't do it again.
Are you sure she forgave him? Are you sure she forgave him?
I hope she did.
The boy was actually shedding River Niger.
I saw it. I saw it. I saw it. In fact, to be honest, you was when the governor made a comment on it that that made me go into it and look at in detail what happened there, and it was very interesting. Very very interesting. I think it
It
goes to
really started to
show.
trend. There are thousands of retweets and stuff, but surprisingly, nobody noticed. Or well, people didn't really notice. I wouldn't say nobody because I couldn't read, every single tweets or retweets on the thread. Nobody was,
Yes.
talking about the fact that the boy was trying to speak in Yoruba, but he got lost. So he was trying to
True.
say, "I won't do that again," but he was now saying, "I will do it again." you know. And I
Yeah.
found that to be really, really hilarious because looking at the environment where he's in, he's probably in Lagos or, well, at least in
Yes.
Nigeria. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And his
Yes.
mother
I
was
do.
speaking to him in Yoruba at some point, but this boy kept on
Yes.
replying in English. So there seems to be a miscommunication between parents and their children because most of us, grew up learning how to speak both our local languages and English. Yes,
Yes.
a lot of us were told if you speak vernacular, we'll find you, all this kind of stuff. But over the years, our parents realized that we had to be able to speak our local languages so that they don't go extinct. What are your thoughts around local languages and how it affects our culture today?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's what I hear. What I notice right now is that a lot of us within our generation are so busy carried along with the careers or businesses, um, chasing their dreams and leaving a gap behind for their kids. And it's terrible because the kids these days, in fact, if you look at schools in Nigeria, they don't teach you the Nigerian language. They just teach you, some of the schools teach you French. Some of the schools teach you other languages. And I
Yeah,
think right there, there's a gap right there because the kids, at the end of the day, they're Nigerians, so they have to know. It's imperative that they know the local language because
yeah,
it's true. And before they now, what happens right now is that everyone is speaking English, trying to learn the European language, but without having any space to learn where they're from. If you ask a normal person in England or America his Nigerian name, he will tell you. But if you ask him what's the meaning, he will tell you he doesn't know. So there's a huge gap there. There's a huge space. There's a vacuum, and that's why we're here to ensure that that thing is reduced.
so there are certain countries where we've seen the penetration of a couple of African languages. The most widely
Yes,
spoken African language is Swahili, but the
right.
most widely spread local language out of Africa seems to be Yoruba.
Yoruba. Yeah.
Yoruba is spoken in quite a lot of countries. As a matter of fact, El Salvador, it is an official language.
Yes, true.
In places like Brazil,
Brazil,
for instance,
Venezuela.
Ven- you know, Venezuela, you see that they have tons of people who are trying to learn the West African languages and the West African cultures. They practice the likes of Ifa. How come we are losing it totally? We are speaking Phonet 24/7, where we don't even recognize our culture anymore. It's not something that we even know or relate with.
That's so true. You're absolutely correct. And that's the reason. The fact of the matter is that nowadays we hear people with different kinds of accents. We are Nigerians. We have our accents. Everyone has his own dialect. The Igbo man speaks to you in English, but you can tell where he's coming from when he speaks in English. The Yoruba man speaks to you in English, but you can tell where he's coming from. What we have now is just people who want to speak like Americans or English people, and that defeats the purpose. For us, we're Africans. We need to identify our roots. We need to know where we're from. We need to understand where we're from. So at least that way we're appreciated more. Look at Jamaicans. Jamaicans don't even want to learn any other language. When they speak in English, you can tell they're Jamaicans. They're proud of where they're from. What we have
Yeah,
now is Nigerians, everyone trying to be like every other person. And you know what? At the end of the day, we're eroding the values and the culture, instilled upon us, which should be passed on to our kids. I mean, we have many people who are born. If you watch TV every day, you see Nigerians spread around the world. You can't even tell they're Nigerians until their names pop up on the screen, and you can tell that's when you know that this is a Nigerian or that's a Nigerian. So what we're here to do essentially is to ensure that that gap is being bridged. We need to cover that part.
Yeah.
The kids of the next generation, they need to know where they're from, not just to know by the theory of it of saying you're Nigerian. You need to know the details, how you came about, the meaning of your name, your culture, your language. You need to know how to understand your language. It's very important for all of us to train. It's equivalent. We need to learn. We need to teach our kids how to speak their language, where they're from. Because otherwise, when they get over there, and I see every now and then, they get lost in the scene, and you ask them where you're from, they tell you that all they know is that they're from Nigeria. They don't know anything else. So that's where we come on board. That's what the Roots is here to do. So we have right now we have people coming in from all around the world, from America, New York, DC, Canada, England, Europe. The whole essence is when they come on board, they teach them, they welcome them in their native language. You meet people from every part of the country, or every part of the world, but the language that is being spoken is the native language. So that way it gives them a sense of belonging. They know where they're from. They understand, how things are being done from their native background doctrine. So that's basically what we're here to do.
Okay, so hang on. Let me ask you this. Now, a lot of children, quote and unquote, because quite a few of them now, are teenagers. They're in their early adulthood, living abroad.
Yeah.
Simply because they don't speak their local languages, a lot of them don't understand what their cultures are. And then the way they relate with their parents when they live abroad, it just seems as if they are not of that origin at all. How do you think the lack of knowledge of their local language is affecting their cultural perspectives with their parents?
Yeah, very well said. That's a good question. Fact of the matter is, first of all, once you know your language, it gives you an inkling. It's an intro into knowing the culture, how things have been done, where you come from. Such as you greet someone, you come in the morning, you greet the person in the morning. There's a way you greet the person if you're Yoruba. There's a certain way you greet the person if you're Igbo. There's a certain way you greet the person if you're Hausa. How to attend how to greet visitors, how to address people, with courtesy, with respect. I say Nigerian culture is rich. It's very rich. And fact of the matter is that it's clearly, and to my own, that's what it's being eroded by the day. It's being eroded by the day. We see nowadays everyone wants to be like an American, and guess what? The Americans over there look at us that we have something which they don't have, and we're just throwing it away. We want to learn, be like them. Our culture is rich. The Yoruba culture, like you rightly said, is the most spoken language outside Africa. Yet it's been thrown away for people to go in to learn Spanish or French. I mean, I don't think that's the reason why we realized when we did our research, we realized that there are about 5 to 10 million people in diaspora worldwide, Nigerians. And out of those people, the 10 million or 5 million, most of them will get interracially married and they will have kids from there. If those guys don't understand the language or don't pass on the knowledge, their native knowledge to the kids, all they will have is just the name. All the kids will have is the name. And everything will be eroded. The culture, the values will be eroded. So it's pertinent that I think it's imperative that we as Nigerians, we need to ensure that we pass on the native doctrines to our kids. We need to make sure that they understand what our values are. That's the truth, and that's what we're here.
Okay, so now we've been talking about the diaspora. Nigeria is a country that has a minimum of 256 languages, local languages. Some of those local languages have their own, broken down dialects. So you will see a language having maybe about 6 or 7 different dialects as well. Now, for a country like Nigeria, a lot of things have happened when it comes to our educational system. So much so that when you listen to the radio, for instance, when you're driving in Lagos, you would think you're in America, or you think you're in the UK. Everybody talking on the radio, it's with an accent. Now, in my opinion, I think this all started from the fact that when federal government colleges were established, those federal government colleges were meant to enhance integration in the country. So you were meant to learn at least 2 of the other major languages apart from the language in which you spoke originally. But for some strange reason, it just did not happen. And you are also from that generation that went through that process. You went to a federal government college, I believe.
Yes, I went to Janaki.
Yeah. So what do you think happened? What was your experience there? Why do you think the language process did not get a firm footing?
I think, first of all, I think the federal educational system here has failed, has collapsed. And hence, that's the reason we have a lot of private tutorials and private schools and academies right now, teaching people, taking advantage of the flow going on in the country. So,
but those ones are busy teaching our children. They are busy teaching our children French and Spanish and things like that.
That's my point. But basically, it's the failure of the federal government meeting up the standards that we had, like back then. So now that, I went to Janaki, for instance, right? And when I was in Janaki, the structure was perfect. It was solid. Everyone understood. We didn't even speak any of those. We didn't have. There's no way we could have French. There's no way we could have French on your curriculum or Spanish. All we spoke was English, and it was basic. Everyone across board, got along very well. The structure was firm. After that, now I hear that a lot of the schools have lost values, have lost quality they used to have. So hence, a lot of people have now gone into private schools. And in those private schools, they bring in things it's a business. So they bring in different curriculum that will lure people to come on board. That's what's going on. It's all a business. So the kids these days, the average kid in Nigeria goes from a decent home, goes to a private school, which is highly expensive. It's a high-end expense and bill. And he goes there, the parents pay that much money, which is a huge amount. He comes out, he learns French, he learns English, he learns Spanish, he learns how to use the piano. And from there, summertime, he goes abroad. He comes back in December, he goes abroad again. So the fact of the matter is that it's just the whole picture, the whole screen is viewed towards being in Europe. So the average child right now, by the time he does 6 years in secondary school, he's looking to ultimately go to university abroad. If he doesn't go to university abroad, he's looked down upon he can't afford to go there. So that whole paradigm must change. That whole mindset must change. And that's what we're here for. Because those kids that go there to those private schools, 80% of them can't even speak their native language. They can't even speak the local language, except for a few whose parents, speak the native language in the house. But most of them don't. I've seen in my little experience, in my journey so far, I've seen a lot of people. I am one of them as well. I'm also a victim. I have seen a lot of people who, in their households, they speak English. So the kids don't really learn anything. They just learn to speak English and perhaps speak French from school. And they must pass the tests and the exams. So which means that you're learning how to speak French. Whereas they can't even speak their native language. So right there is a vacuum. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to bridge the gap.
Well, for me, my own experience, I went to 2 federal government colleges. I went to Federal Government College in Kaduna, in northern Nigeria. I also went to Federal Government College in Bomosho, in western Nigeria. Now, I was able to break a lot of barriers because I made an effort to learn languages. So I can speak a little spattering of Hausa, and say, as in, like, I can say the normal greetings, try to put up a conversation, kind of thing. But somewhere along the line, I'm still a Lagos boy. And I grew up in Surulere. And Surulere is a pot people. It's like living in New York. So you have people from everywhere in the world in Surulere. And a lot of my friends, including yourself, happen to come from Eastern Nigeria. So I had to, try to connect with my friends from Eastern Nigeria as well. So I was able to learn, a couple of words and say things like, I'm not sure, there, or Yemiri, things like that. I was able to pick up little things. And those little things helped me a lot, because sometimes you walk into a friend's house and you see their parents, and just simply because you can say a few basic things, in their own local language, they get endeared to you. They take an interest in you. They take an interest in your parents and your background. And then, relationships are formed from there. There's, a bond starts to develop.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
growing up in a place like Surulere, that was the glue that held everybody together. But today, the children don't even know who the next door neighbors are anymore, much less getting to understand the next person's language.
True.
So a lot is being lost simply because it's not happening.
There's a huge gap, and that's the truth. Fact of the matter is that I consider myself a Nigerian. Why do I say so? I was born in Lagos. I'm Igbo. I was born in Lagos. I schooled in Jos. I did my secondary school in Janiki. I'm married to my wife is from Benin, and I'm a mix of all. So my wife is from there. So I'm a mix of all. My own pain is that I see people these days coming up with different accents, trying to be like what they're not. And the funny thing is, those guys over there, the Americans or the English people, they appreciate you more for who you are. You're not English. It's a language, yes, but you're African. So you speak your native language. Even if you're speaking English, speak in your Nigerian accent. There's nothing wrong with that. It has nothing to do with you don't have to speak in an accent that will make everyone, you don't have to, speaking English, being eloquent in your accent, it's decent enough. So that's what we see these days. A lot of kids these days are running away, or they're shying away from their native language. And that has to stop, because it's with the native language, then they will now learn the culture. And that's what we're doing. What we're doing right now, I'll give you an example. In my school right now, my academy that I set up, we have a lot of students who are on board. And when they are learning the language, it comes with an underlying fact of the culture behind the language. So you come to maybe like the Yoruba teacher now, who teaches a lot of people across board in America and Canada and all. When you come in, they will tell you, greet in your language. Ekaro, if it's morning, they teach you all those things. And you ask yourself, then you start asking yourself, how does this happen? So you begin to be inquisitive about learning the culture, the values. Our values are different from the English value. Our values are different from the American style of looking at things. Jamaicans, for instance, they speak their language. They speak with their accents. They have a different value, which they're proud of. They have a heritage they're proud of. Nigerians are not, which is sad. So we're here to ensure that the children will learn the basic things. They should be able to communicate. They should be able to get along and know it gives them a sense of belonging, that they're from here. This is where they're from. They're Nigerians, they're Yoruba, they're Igbo, they're Hausa, Bini, any of them. That's what we do. We have teachers across board in every major language, because we have Nigeria has about 500 languages. But we have teachers in major languages: Hausa, Bini, Yoruba, Urobo, Ishan, Igbo, Fulani, Tiv. We have all those teachers ready to teach you in the Nigerian language, Nigerian native language.
We are going for a short commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, we're back from that very brief commercial break. So, for those of you just joining us, laughter, language, and culture. And let me go towards the language and say Ekaleo Undewono. What's that one for Hausa again? Barkadarana? No, I think. No, I can't remember, but we'll get back to that. But anyways, understanding, languages, especially local languages, for people close to you or around you, actually breaks a lot of barriers, creates a bond. It even makes business much easier. There are some cultures that when you walk into their environment, you walk into their markets and you try to have a conversation with them around what you want to buy. Trust me, if you cannot even say a word in their local language, they will be very upset and they just might even look at you and tell you, I know they sell. Yep, they do that. Trust me. Now we're going to bring back Ben into the studio, and Ben is going to tell us a bit more about why, language is so important. Hi, Ben.
Hello, hi.
So did you hear me trying to greet everybody, in the different...
I did.
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to pick up.
Yeah, you're doing well. That's fantastic.
On the little, the one that a language that I truly wish that I could speak was Igbo. Really. And the funny thing is, I used to crack a lot of jokes, in Igbo, and I actually got a lot of friends from Eastern Nigeria, and some of them used to take some deep offense over the fact that I used to crack those kind of jokes I used to crack. Why? Because of the thick accents that I used to mimic, in cracking my jokes. I know they used to think it was a case of you were mocking them. But the truth is, we don't celebrate ourselves enough. The best jokes that you get to hear in Nigeria, funny enough, if you listen to them, they are spoken in a truly evolving language. And what is that language? Pidgin. And where did pidgin come out from? Pidgin is from West Africa. Is much more widely spoken in Nigeria.
I agree.
Now, the likes of Olamide could not be as successful as he has been if it was not a case of he was mixing Yoruba into his music. Flavor Nabanian, one of his biggest hits was Sangin Igbo. When you look at P Square, the same thing. So many of them, simply because they were able to sing lovely songs in their own languages, they were able to break bounds.
Yeah,
Why are we throwing away our language?
There are many singers who have done very well, and I would like to be good ambassadors for Nigeria. Flavor, we have Nice, we have Olamide, we have Fino, we have loads of them. We have the other one, even the one Lighter, I think. They've created their own genre, which is fantastic. And people appreciate those things. It's amazing how you won't understand what you're saying, but you appreciate the rhythm, the tune, you appreciate how the thing is really, brought together. Those are true ambassadors of Africa, because you know why? They go outside and they are real, they are true, they are raw, they're real. So they're not faking anything. They're coming out with what they know, how they were brought up, and they're commercializing it, and they're making their money from there. So it's a fantastic. I think they're good ambassadors for Nigeria. I think they're absolutely good ambassadors. Same as even the pidgin English. People like Burna Boy. Burna Boy is someone who sings in pidgin.
Besse.
Everyone wants to know what Besse is.
Yeah.
All those things are things that are intriguing. They're intriguing to those people because they don't know. They haven't heard that before. So they'll say, what's that?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
That is the catch. That is the catch of where you're from. Expressing yourself in your own way. Don't try to communicate or mimic or copy someone else's style, because you're not being real that way. And that's why I think this Nigerian artists should be credited for what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
doing a hell of a job.
So one of our viewers, Jawadi Gila, is buttressing your point. He's saying that Fela cracked the music market in Europe, bringing his African identity to the world. So Fela was singing songs like "Water No Get Enemy," and he had a lot of translation when he was singing.
Yes.
He would say it, in his heavily accented Nigerian, English, and then he will now go into the Yoruba translation.
Yeah,
Now, Fela went to
absolutely.
school abroad. Fela had elite education across board.
Right.
But he understood it that you had to be able to represent your culture. And that was why he was so
To be able to
successful at the end of the day.
Exactly. That's absolutely. I agree.
Funny enough,
I
I've
mean,
embarrassed
even
myself before. I've embarrassed myself
oh, really?
before because when you spoke of Nice, it just reminded me of something. So when Nice first released his song, that was a massive hit back in the 90s called
It was
Gongwaso Jupao. I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was Gongo as in the Gongo, do the drum. That's what he was talking about. And then Jukpa, that kind of dance, or whatnot. And the people that understand Yoruba looked at me and I was like, Mr. Man, sit down there.
Are you serious?
Yes, of course, because I didn't understand what he was saying. Which is the truth. I just didn't understand. Why? Because growing up in Lagos, you get to speak the Lagos Yoruba.
Yes, true. Which is commercial Yoruba. True.
Which is commercial Yoruba. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you're not actually speaking Yoruba. But the Lagos Yoruba has evolved as well. It's being spoken in so many parts of Nigeria amongst people that speak Yoruba. But still, we are still able to identify with our culture, at least being able to speak that language to a certain extent.
I mean, what's it called? Burna Boy, the reason he's transcending beyond bounds is because of the fact that he's real. He's bringing out what they haven't heard before. They're not used to all those slangs, all those words he brings out. So that's the reason it's different. And the beats they're strong. The rhythm is solid. So everyone is like, who's this guy? Where is this coming from? That is the mystery, and that's the catch. That's where it sells. When you start to rap and do the same old, I mean, you can't beat the master. That is their genre. Americans are kings of rapping and all. But when you come in with your own language and you make it tune, everyone wants to know what's about. It sounds good. Who's this guy? Who sang this thing? Look at Wizkid. Wizkid started with Pidgin English.
Yeah.
And he was blending with Yoruba. So he came in with his own original, they call it Afro pop. He came in with his own genre and he's cut across the market with his own genre. He's making his money. He's being recognized globally now.
Yeah.
So it's just the way you have to come back to your roots to make yourself known. You have to identify where you're from for people to accept who you are. You can't, that's just what it is. So it's basically all of us trying to know our origin, our values, our culture as Nigerians, and transcending it onto the kids. We need to be sure that we know that we're not just by the word of saying we're Nigerians. We need to know the doctrine. We need to know how to relate to each other, how to greet each other, how to address, say hello to each other, and address issues together in our native language, in our native doctrine. It's just
look at what's our friend Jawadi Gila. He's an encyclopedia, by the way.
I see he's
immensely intelligent fellow. So he's saying, Chinua Achebe also had his Things Fall Apart book, an Igbo-themed book, a bestseller in South Korea. Now, I remember Things Fall Apart. I remember Okonkwo.
Yes, that's the movie.
And I could identify with him. And then back in the days when we were, because it was a classic. When we were in secondary school and you had to, join the literary and debating society, you had to join the dance club, you had to join the, the cultural club and all that. For the cultural club, you had to, act out a book. You had to do a play around a book. And we did a play around that, Things Fall Apart. You had to be able to mimic the character. Because you're not an actor, you're just an amateur trying to, educate yourself. And you had to now learn all those, all those characters in Things Fall Apart. You have to be able to mimic them. So practically everybody that took part in that play, had to find out from their friends who were from the East what certain words meant. So even if they had no prior knowledge of Igbo, do you understand what I'm saying? They were able to pick up what it meant. And then, of course, when you now talk of the parables, the what they call
exactly the proverbs, the idioms, all those things.
The proverbs.
You start to learn. Yes.
Those things, were culture penetration strategies that was easy for people to pick up.
Correct. Absolutely. I agree with you. So those are the things that will bring you closer to values, knowing your culture, knowing how we look at life and how we see, how we address matters in life. So it starts with the language. It starts
Yeah.
by knowing your language. Once you understand your language, then the rest is all, is all interwoven. You come in, you say, well, why did they greet you this way? Why did they do this? Then you will now learn more. But it starts with the language. So once the focal point, the main point here is we should ensure, if we want to let our kids understand where we're coming from, not just saying they're Nigerians, let them learn the language. That
Oh
way,
yeah.
it transcends. It's now interwoven. They will now say, okay, why is this way? Why,
Yeah.
like we use a program, you now say, why do we say Caro? Or they will now start to explain to you how. And that way, you're grounded. You have a sense of belonging as to who you are, where you come from.
Yeah.
You know
It
where
will naturally
your
evolve
root.
into the culture and then the history, and all
Exactly.
that.
So
Now, Nigeria is a
that's it.
heavily polarized country. And I am of the opinion that one of the reasons why it's so polarized is because we have not taken out the effort to learn each other's language. Now, they say that we are a very happy people, but how happy are we? Really and truly. Fine, when you go to, social events and all that, you see our people laughing, especially when you crack jokes, with a local language or with a local inflection in terms of
Exactly.
how you
So,
speak your English or what, French or whatever it is that you are speaking.
so,
You get what I'm saying?
so I agree. Yes.
Would we have been a much happier people? Would we have been a more integrated people if we understood, that platform that the federal government colleagues are trying, to imbibe in us of you learning at least 2 languages from, the other parts of the country?
I think it's perfect for us to learn two languages from each, from the country. If you're Yoruba, if you come into a federal government school and you learn Yoruba and Hausa or Yoruba and Igbo, I think it's perfect that way because we're Nigerians. We shouldn't be thinking of ourselves just being Yoruba or just being Igbo. In as much as there are underlying differences, the fact of the matter is that on the face of it, we're Nigerians. I was raised in Lagos. I was raised here. And truth of the matter is that people look at me and say, yes, I'm Igbo, yes. Well, guess what? I get along. I speak well. I on the passive Yoruba, along line. I understand Igbo passively, and that's the way it should be. I won't discredit someone who speaks Igbo with an Igbo accent because it's just where
Yeah.
he came from. It's just where he
Mm-hmm.
came from. If he was brought up in the East, if I was brought up in the East, I will probably speak that way too. I'll probably speak with. I'll speak like an Onitsha man or someone from Owerri. If I was brought up in Ibadan or Ekiti, if I was brought up in Ibadan, I would have the H factor. I'll be using the word H for I or whatever. So I think it's time we appreciate where we come from. What matters most is that we speak and understand each other. Once you can speak to get across your message across to the next person, it's perfect. Regardless of where you're coming from, because everyone has his own dialect. We are bound to have our own accents. We
Me, I will
shouldn't throw
laugh
it
for
away.
bed. Me, I will laugh.
Hmm?
So the H factor.
Why would
So,
you laugh?
so,
No, back in
so
the day,
somebody from,
I'll be honest
so
with you. No,
somebody from,
hold on. Back
so
in the day, back in the day,
somebody from Ibadan is trying to tell you that I'm from,
I
what school
remember,
are you? You say Polytechnic. Instead of
I,
saying Polytechnic, but say Polytechnic Ibadan.
I respect that. I respect that. But guess what? Guess what? You know what? You
I
know the
will
funny
laugh.
thing? Even at that time, at the time, there were people who spoke well in terms of being
Yeah.
eloquent, but they had that issue with their accents. They had
Oh
the
yeah.
H factor. They spoke well, as in they will talk to you and
Yeah.
you understand what they're saying, but if their dictions will be different. They'll be able to tell you maybe like is he coming or so they have those H factor things. Same goes for Igbo guys. I've heard Igbo guys who come and say Sulu Lele. They don't use the S. So they don't use the R. They'll call it RL. I've seen all
Is
this.
that an Onitsha guy? Is that an Onitsha guy or is that
Yeah,
from
possibly.
Onitsha
Yeah,
from Owerri?
yeah, yeah. From the Onitsha part, from the Anambra part. And you see,
Okay.
for me, I have guys in Warri who have their own way of speaking. You can tell the beauty of it is as a grown man now and as a mature person, the beauty of it is you can tell where you're coming from. When you
Yeah.
speak, I can tell where you're coming from. If you're a Warri boy and you come to me, you don't need to. I know where you're coming from by the time you speak to me. And same goes for a Yoruba person who comes from. I will tell you, there's a distinction between a Lagos boy and an Ekiti boy or an
Yeah.
Ibadan boy. There's a little limit, there's a distinction, little level of distinction, which, you know, to the normal eyes, you might not notice, but we know the distinction. When they talk, we can tell this is not. A Lagos boy has a way of talking, which is the more commercial type. Same goes for Hausa. I'm sure the North. I don't have the details for the North, but I know the North have their own different
Oh, I
something.
can tell you, I can tell you a bit about that. You understand? So,
Exactly.
if a Hausa man wants to say Peter, you say Fita.
Exactly. You know,
You know,
exactly.
so
So exactly.
it's all
So
over the
those are
country.
things that
I had an
is everywhere.
experience. Let me tell you about the experience that I had. So I went to Akwa
Okay.
Ibom with, back then when I used to work in an IT firm, myself and two other colleagues, and the guy
Okay.
decided when we were in Uyo that we should go and visit his parents in Ikotabasi.
Ah man, Uyo
Yes,
is an extreme case.
yeah.
Uyo, that
So
one you just
Ikotabasi,
know.
my brother. On the way to Ikotabasi, he himself could not remember the way to his village, and all that. So we now saw a couple of schoolgirls, with buckets on their head, they
Right.
fetched water and all that. So he now stopped. He now asked them, in his local dialect, he asked them, "We are going to Ikotabasi. Please, can you, Ikotabasi, please, can you direct us?" Instead of the girl that was talking to, answer back in the local language, she started to speak in English. My brother, hold your
Oh,
stomach.
she spoke back in English. She spoke back in English. My God,
You say, okay,
that would be
you go
God.
straight, or you come make a left turn, come here right turn, come here left turn, make
Oh
right turn,
man,
come look straight again, come here right turn again, come look left,
I
you
can
come say,
relate. I
you
can
go
relate.
Abasi.
I can relate to what you're saying.
I
Just
freaked
speak
out.
in your language. Speak
I
your
freaked
language.
out. I was like, what did she say? Can we record what she said? All over the
Oh,
country, you get that type of
yeah, it's
experience.
everywhere. It's everywhere.
These are the
So
things
that
that are
is
supposed to. It's supposed to drive tourism. It's supposed to drive, our
yeah,
entertainment
exactly,
sector. So many
exactly.
things, but it's not happening. It's
It's not
amazing.
happening.
Or is it
I will give an
the
example. I will give an example.
yeah?
Even in, like I told you yesterday, even there's a difference in the accent in from a Jamaican and other West Indies.
Oh
So
yeah,
when they
definitely.
speak, they know that there's a difference. You can tell. In pidgin English, in pidgin English, our pidgin English is different from the pidgin English in Sierra Leone. When a Sierra
Yeah,
Leonean talks to you, you can
yeah,
tell the difference. It's the same pidgin, but it's in a different form. The way
oh
they
yeah.
speak their pidgin is the same as we speak our pidgin. Same goes for the rest of the other West Coast African countries. So
Oh, Liberia as
it's
well.
just
Oh yeah,
even Liberians as well. So we just need to, stick to our own trade and amplify it because there's nothing wrong with it. It's accepted in America. There are different accents everywhere. The accent in New York and what's it
oh
called,
yeah.
LA, it's all
Deep
different. So
South,
they have
everywhere. Yeah,
exactly they have their own way of speaking. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what it is. So we need to be proud of where we come from. And I don't have any problem with speaking my Nigerian language anywhere in the world because I believe that they will hear me. I don't see any reason why I should speak like an American when I get to America. I'm not an American. I'm a Nigerian, full blown. I'm not English. I'm Nigerian. So that's who I am. I don't need to start expressing myself in their language or no. I speak English, which is coherent enough, so I think they will understand
yeah.
where I'm coming from. And that is, but I have my own accent. I am Nigerian. The problem is the children right now, we need to pass those things in the children. Because if our children,
Yeah.
let me explain one thing. If our children hear us speak with an accent, they will toe our line. They won't
Oh,
want to
naturally. No, but the
associate
schools they
themselves
go
with the
to
Nigerian.
affects them as well, doesn't it?
Exactly. So when you come, you're an authority as a father. So when you come on board and you come in and speak your normal language, everyone sees you, everyone appreciates you and says that yes, you're you represent the Nigerian factor. I can't come into a school if my children are abroad and start to speak in an English, try to speak like an English person or like a British person. I'm not British. when she's talking to me, she will know. So my kids will know that their father is not an Englishman.
Yeah.
Their father is a Nigerian, full blown. When you come to school, the kids understand how to behave. They know how the doctrine is for a Nigerian, citizen. That is just my point, and that's what we're here to do.
That's
Our values
fantastic.
are reading.
So let me ask you a question. With all these, with all these intonations, all these dialects and stuff,
yeah,
are your team are they going to be able to cope, with all these dialects and stuff and being able to pass the message across, adequately?
Okay, yes.
Because children picking up inflections is a totally different ball game.
We have a curriculum. The first 3 months are for you to learn the greetings, because we have different categories. For the elementary, which is you don't understand anything in English,
Yeah.
the language. You learn with the greetings, then you learn with the alphabets, the consonants, and the vowels. Then afterwards, you now learn how to introduce yourself, communicate with people. Then it goes on and on and like that way. Then it gets to the stage where you can now start to know, they'll teach you some things on how, in whichever culture, whatever tribe you're from, how they relate to people, how to prostrate. If it's Yoruba, you prostrate in the morning. These are things. So that's why I say it's interwoven. The more you learn your language, the more you know the doctrine, the culture, how things are being done from where you're from. So that's the whole essence. The main thing is to, like I said, learn the language. From there, you can now start to learn how people, Nigerians or the Igbo people, address each other, how they greet someone. That's so.
So Princess Pamela is buttressing your point. She said children speak different accents at school and at home. So which is, most likely true. So they would imitate you rather than imitate what's going on in school.
Exactly.
Well,
True.
that's fantastic, Ben. So, Ben, one last question, and it is a riddle. If you answer this riddle, any member of the audience of your choice gets to win an iPhone SE. And the riddle is this. I hope my friends from Sokoto and the Kebbi axis, Mutari Nadaba, Mustafa Nadaba, Rufai Musa, and co, I hope they are listening, because they might be able to. So there's no cheating there, they won't win. They're definitely ruled out. So the riddle is this. Have you ever seen a loba disgrace another loba under Mozagaleba? Why? Just because of foolishness and environmental negligence? Come on, Ben, make somebody win an iPhone. Come on.
Have I ever seen a lawman? A lawman disgrace another lawman?
Have you ever seen a loba disgrace another loba under Mozagaleba? Why? Just because of foolishness and environmental negligence?
What is Mozagaleba?
Okay, folks. I'm not going to tell you because nobody's going to win the iPhone tonight. Ben, it's been great having you on. I've had a fantastic time, discussing language, culture, and we have truly had the laughter at the beginning and at the end of the show. We hope to have you on again sometime, and then we'll continue this conversation. Have a great night and have a great weekend as well.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank you.
So there you have it, folks. It's been a funny evening having this discussion, with Ben Nwokedi, the founder of the Roots Academy, and he's looking to. So somebody wants to win the iPhone. So go ahead, Princess. If you can answer, the riddle, then you can win the iPhone SE. You can quickly. You still have time. An extra 5 minutes. I'm going to allow you to connect with any of your friends that come from the Sokoto Kebbi axis and see if they can help you out with that. We are waiting. So, back to what I was saying. So, Ben and his team, what they're hoping for is to be able to reach out to families, both at home and abroad, and try to get their children to speak our local languages. So maybe if they're able to speak the local languages, if you, could not, crack this riddle, that I just, threw out, maybe they could have helped you if they understood. But unfortunately, I know that tons and tons and tons of you we will have no idea how to answer that. On that note, we're going to call it a night, and we're going to give our usual, social messages. And the messages are, okay, Princess, you're asking what's the riddle. I'm going to answer that riddle. I'm going to give that riddle again. And that riddle is, have you ever seen where a lower disgrace another lower under Mozagalba? Why? Just because of foolishness and environmental negligence. So we are still waiting 5 minutes. So we're giving our social messages like we always do, every night. Our initial campaign that we started a couple of weeks ago, the Say No to Rape campaign, is still on, full-fledged. We are still at it. We are still hammering it. We are still screaming it. There's a lot been happening so far. We'll give you an update in probably another week or so. And we'll be telling you how far we have gone, what little impact we have been able to make so far in trying to get our message across on the No to Rape campaign. And our good friend, TY, her handle is at official TY on Instagram, who sang the fantastic song No Excuse. Her songs are still, the song is still out there. It's still on, everybody's cracking me up. Okay, funny messages just coming in over that riddle. But anyways, so TY song is still there. You can still get your Spotify and all the other, channels that you can access songs from. Remember, no excuse. You're a man, a woman too. So protect the women. Without a healthy women, definitely we are not going to have healthy societies. That aside, then we're not talking of the issue of gangsterism, insecurity. It's a serious problem. Everybody has to be their neighbor's keeper. Watch out for each other. When you see anything suspicious, you're not sure what it is, alert your neighbors, alert the police, alert the security, in your area, and let them know. Something horrible happened to somebody I know very recently. I'm not going to say what it is, on screen, but it's not something that anybody would like to hear. But you need to increase your security awareness around you, and everybody should be safe and happy at the end of the day. Also, Baraka the Salah, don't eat too much meat. It runs below. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great holiday. And good night. Princess, I'm sorry, you did not win. You did not get your answer. Good night, everybody, and see you, as usual, on Sunday at 8 p.m. Have a great one. Bye.